we go. All right, guys. So, as you've seen, if you've been watching us, we've been kind of doing our MCU review. This is the number 4 movie overall for the MCU. We're almost to the end of Phase 1, which will end with Avengers. We have one more movie before that after this. This is our introduction to Asgard, to Thor, several other characters that you will see throughout the MCU. I have some opinions about this movie myself. Obviously, we'll save those for after we get done.
Sure.
But this is one of those movies that it's super impactful to the formation of the MCU as overall. So it's kind of got its own impact there. So
yeah.
What do you have to say?
I think we're gonna have some different opinions on this one.
I agree. From what your ranking showed me, I think this is where you start to see Young Lion and I really have to delve deep into some of our conversations about these movies.
Yeah.
Might be our first one.
Nonetheless, this movie, once we get into it, is definitely one that needed to happen so that we have what we have.
You couldn't
So,
have, yeah.
I just want to throw that in real quick because that's one thing we talked about a lot. So, I just think this one's definitely needed. You ready to watch this clip?
Let's do it.
Let's see it.
Need eyes up high with a gun. What do we got?
There's a massive electromagnetic surge coming off that thing. Systems are barely coping.
Talk to me.
You want me to slow him down, sir? Or are you sending in more guys for him to beat up?
I'll let you know.
Such a smart ass.
How big? 4 bigger.
It's such a good line.
This is just, I feel like this is a really good scene.
One of my favorite parts is what he's about to do. This right here, just the steaming drop kick.
Hell.
My back would be hurting for 3 days.
Oh, for sure.
Wipes his mouth with his muddy arm.
Yeah. That's gangster shit right there.
You're an hour, Coulson. I'm starting to root with this guy. Last chance, sir.
Wait. I want to see this.
Music change. I really love that scene.
Yeah, that's a good scene.
Good scene. What was I gonna say? I don't need. I was gonna say something, but
I think one part that always sticks with me is like right after this, Jane is like sitting there hiding, and she calls Sylvie. She's like, "Hey, I need you to come get me. I did exactly what you told me not to. Sorry, I'm so sorry."
yeah, Natalie Portman definitely does good Jane.
She does, but
Another
we
time.
get- yeah.
Another time. So we had two scenes in mind mainly. There was a third discussed, but it kind of lost traction pretty quick.
Yeah.
Which that one was the another. He smashes the coffee cup, which is, if you know and have been keeping up what cousin Jeffro here did at the end of Iron Man 2's video. So I thought it would just be funny if we picked up that scene where he left off.
What I try to do is at the end of each of our videos, I try and do a little Easter egg for the next movie we're gonna do.
Which is what Marvel does.
So I do a good job. Yay!
The other scene was when he does earn his hammer again.
Because the destroyer scene is pretty
That scene does
awesome.
go pretty hard.
Yeah.
Self-sacrifice, all of it.
Listen, son of Cole. From this moment.
I don't know. I like this one a lot. Eventually we came to agreement that this was one that really defined Thor as a whole in a movie. And not only do we get to see Thor's lowest point, we get to see our introduction of Hawkeye. Which is one of those characters that you come to really love and care for through the whole thing.
And I also think something that probably most people don't touch on, and it's something that's brought up in one of the other movies, Coulson. Coulson, several times throughout this movie, has every reason to not give Thor a shot. If you remember after this, when Selvig tries to break him out, they prove that Thor's identification is false.
Yeah.
But he still lets him go. He watches Thor take Jane's book back, and he still lets him go. And they talk about in Captain Marvel where Coulson has really good instincts. And if his instincts are telling him something, he's going to follow that. And I think that right there, like right here, Hawkeye was ready to shoot him as soon as
last
Coulson,
chance.
And Coulson knew that there was something about Thor, even though it didn't work out here. He knew that there was something about him, and he needed to give him a shot.
Yeah.
And I think that just speaks volumes as to why Coulson was a really good character, even though he was not an Avenger.
Now, I know we're not doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but did you watch it?
I watched part of it. I kind of
Does that expand Coulson?
It does,
in that?
but as the seasons go on, it gets kind of convoluted,
Okay.
and that's
See,
kind of why.
I didn't watch any of it.
And that's kind of why I kind of lost interest and why I wasn't necessarily wanting to do it within this.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have to watch like several seasons of it.
Right. And I mean, at this point, does it even tie in at all?
At the beginning, it has some tie-ins, but it kind of loses everything. Like, clearly, nothing happens with Endgame or Infinity War or any of that. So it kind of.
So I mean, whatever. But you guys know, if you don't know, Iron Man 1, go there. That's where we talk about how we're doing our lists.
Yep. So we're not going to go into all of that every movie.
No.
Because if we did, these would be 50-minute.
Way
reviews.
too long.
Yeah.
Way too long.
We already talk a lot in this, so we're trying to condense.
So, unlike last time, I came prepared. I brought the DVD case for Thor, which it has a $5 sticker. If I can buy them cheap, I'll buy them cheap. I ain't ashamed to admit it. Like half these I bought at Goodwill. I'm not even gonna lie. On the back, you actually get to see this scene. See him when he's in Jotunheim, talking to Odin, talking to Jane. And I actually like this cover front a lot.
It's got
everything
that's
crazy.
crazy
Important to the movie, really.
because you don't really get to see how important Heimdall is in this movie per se, but they actually do make Heimdall a pretty central character later on.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
for sure. One of my other things about this movie that I do like is, we talked about this earlier, is some of the humor. Like,
Yeah.
one thing that I liked is it didn't take itself so seriously because Chris Hemsworth is underrated in how, like, he can play a serious role. Perfect example, in this scene, when he finds out he can't lift the hammer, he does the whole looking up at the sky and he screams. That's what I wanted Mickey Rourke to do in Iron Man 2. Okay?
Okay.
That was believable. So, he does the serious, but then, like, some of the parts with Thor, especially even in this one where it's not as, light, like Thor Ragnarok or Love and Thunder, some of the funny scenes are hilarious. Like, where he keeps getting hit by the car. Like, she keeps running him over.
Yeah.
Or I think one of my favorites is when they get him in the hospital and he, like, realizes he's in the hospital and he tries to get out. And he's like, "For I am the mighty Thor." And he gets his face thrown up against the door and they stab the needle into his butt and he goes, and his face just drags down the glass. Hilarious.
Great. We actually talked about that one too. I forgot about that. I apologize.
And then, like, obviously, like, the another, like, that's just funny because it's like, I wanted another. Well, maybe next time don't smash stuff. So.
To me, when the whole MCU and a whole was starting, you obviously pick a favorite character. Thor was my favorite character for a while, and I think that's why I like this movie probably more than I should. But nonetheless, I like Chris Hemsworth as Thor as well.
Oh, absolutely. And
I don't think I could have picked a better cast.
Here's my thing. Individually, I think they casted them really well. Like, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, like, easily one of the best villain portrayals in the MCU. Probably one of the best villain portrayals in any superhero movie the last 20 years. I mean, he's just been so good as Loki.
Yeah.
And he has the depth to him. Like, I've talked about in other reviews where sometimes they take the villain and they make them redeemable. And the thing about Loki is he's not necessarily redeemable. He's an anti-hero. He's not really a villain. He's not really a good guy. He's always going to be, like, skirting back to what his interests are. But that's indicative of the comics, so that's not like them just trying to redeem Loki. Idris Elba is Heimdall.
Kills it.
Fantastic.
I love Idris Elba. I'm throwing it out there.
Anthony Hopkins as Odin is a great choice. Hot take, Odin is the real bad guy. Because Odin, the way he treats Loki, all the stuff we find out later, like, this dude has just been keeping all kinds of secrets, and most of the stuff that happens is because of things that he's done.
Yeah. Especially Ragnarok.
Yeah, once you find out what he does in Ragnarok, like, I was sad to see you die. Bye, bud.
Yeah, honestly.
Now, here's the reason why I think we might differ is Jane Foster, Natalie Portman as Jane Foster is great. The love chemistry between Jane Foster and Thor, I just don't buy it.
I would agree.
I
actually agree with that.
She's supposed to be this world-renowned scientist. Like, clearly if you've seen Love and Thunder, you know she actually turns herself into a badass later. And yet, she acts like a lovesick girl over Thor and all of a sudden, like, can't stay driving on the road and, like, can't form her sentences and stuff. Like, I get it. It's Thor. Thor's jacked. I mean, most girls watching a dude with Thor's physique, they're going to love him. Okay, I get that. But I just feel like you tried so much to do that you took away, and I just don't think there was much chemistry between Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth as far as, like, them being a romantic couple in the movie. I feel like that detracted some of the movie away from me.
Okay. I will say one scene that does, and it's like the only scene you really get, that chemistry is when he's telling her that what she calls science and all that when she's looking at the book and he's like, yeah, this is Asgard. And he's telling her all this stuff.
And
that's the only thing that I could see where they're like, well, maybe they're a couple. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I think that's actually the most organic scene between them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The rest of them is her, like, being like, oh.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Or when he, like, shows up and after he gets the hammer back and he's like, is this how you always look? And he's like, more or less, it's a good look. It's like, girl, come on. Like, yeah. I don't know. I don't buy that. The Frost Giants were used in this movie, but I feel like they were more of an afterthought, and I felt like you could have done more with Laufey, especially being Loki's dad. Like, my thing is like, you mean to tell me that Laufey never realized Loki was his son?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Out
that's
of
a
all
son.
the times.
Yeah. Like, oh, you just took our baby boy.
'cause he's not
We
blue.
know that Odin had to take him, and yet he's the one who's acting the most suspicious. And yet.
Yeah.
So.
So with that, I think the best character in this movie is Loki.
100% agree. His acting scenes, oh my gosh.
Which I know, I'm sure you know, and I'm sure everybody who's ever seen anything Marvel knows that he auditioned for Thor.
Yep.
And there's no way in the world that I could not see him as Loki.
When
You know, like, I just... Tom,
Go ahead, I didn't mean
no,
to
you're
interrupt.
good, dude. Like, just Tom Hiddleston is just fantastic. Obviously, season 2 is currently going as we speak of Loki, the TV show, and he's just such a prominent character. Every time he's on screen, he is the screen. You know what I mean? Like, he just kills
He
it.
does a great job. Like, for me, there's two parts in this movie that just show how good he is. When he's talking to Odin after he realizes that something's different about him.
Yeah.
And, like, he keeps asking Odin, and Odin won't tell him, and he just screams, and there's that, like, it's almost like his soul's breaking, like, where he's like, tell me! And then, like, when he's talking to Thor, and, like, you can start to see the villain side of him, and he looks at him and he goes, is it? Like, I think those two little subtle things sometimes can make a character so much better, because it's not just like, well, you're a bad guy. Like, you know, the best villain portrayals as we've seen in the MCU, you know, we've had some great ones, I think, are able to do more than just make them a bad guy. You know, like Josh Brolin's Thanos, Hela, you know, Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. Like, they're multifaceted in what they bring, and they're not just a straight up villain.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, there's a lot more to it, and I think that Tom Hiddleston, I would be hard pressed to argue against anyone having a better villain portrayal than him, just because he's done it well for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like, you're even rooting for him to kind of be a good guy.
Yeah.
So
I know. I hear you, dude. I'm a big Loki supporter. And then, like you said, Heimdall. I know that. I don't know. Did you? So, in Avengers, Thanos gets revealed, and we're like, oh, he's going for the Infinity Stones. It's probably what's going to happen. So I know that there was a lot of obviously talk over time about where the Soul Stone was. Did you know, having your vast knowledge to hear, did you know where it was?
not in this, because the Soul Stone in the comics is very different. And the Soul Stone in the comics, like, a piece of your soul is actually in the Soul Stone.
Yeah.
But
Which we've talked about before.
they could actually, like, get out of the Soul Stone. It's not, like, undoable where they talk about here. So
Well, have you ever heard the theory, like one of the original theories was that Heimdall had the Soul Stone?
and he took it to Gamora.
No, that because his eyes were orange, that part of his soul was in the Soul Stone, and that's how he had the sight of it. That was a whole theory that was based on him, and that's how it was going to come to be. And obviously then Vormir came in and, took that away. But it was a pretty well thought out theory.
That's not a bad theory. Listen, this is where we'll start to get to some of the things about the really good movies that overall they're going to get high rankings, but the movies themselves, they're probably going to lower a little bit.
Yeah.
Because there's some things in there that don't make sense.
Sure.
But we don't want to get off a tangent because we do that way too much in these videos.
Way easily. I agree. I don't know, man. I like Thor, but you want to go ahead and get some ratings going?
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well,
because I also think, like, we've talked about the main characters, but even, like, you get to see Sif and Fandral and Volstagg and Hogan, who
sure,
we do see for a while.
Yeah, you do. And this is probably the most prominent role they got in the entire MCU.
Yeah. Especially the Warriors 3.
Which is kind of sad, to be honest.
Because the Warriors 3 are barely in Dark World. Especially Hogan. Hogan's only there for like 2 minutes.
Yep.
And then Fandral and Volstagg are there for a little bit, but they're not in it. And then Thor Ragnarok, R.I.P.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I think they could have used them a lot more, especially because they were Thor's best friends.
And in the comics, they are always like Thor's ride or dies. Sif, Volstagg, Hogan, and Fandral are like Thor's
I don't know.
homies.
And the way, spoilers obviously if you don't know, but like I mean, they just come out there and just hella just wipes them out,
Just slaughters them.
just like that,
Like Fandral and Volstagg literally don't even get to say anything. They're like, "Hey,
dead.
night night."
I don't know. They could have been something and they were wasted.
They just made him cannon fodder.
Yeah,
That's really what they
honestly.
were.
What?
Darcy,
Darcy's good.
but
I like Darcy, but she doesn't.
but
She's like kind of the comedic relief.
she is, but she becomes more prominent after Endgame.
Yeah, I mean she's very prominent in WandaVision.
Yeah, and you're going to see her again. She's going to show up for some reason. She makes a small appearance in Love and Thunder for obvious reasons. If you haven't
Right.
seen it, we're not going to reveal
Not
that
there
right now.
yet.
But there's a pretty prominent scene, and you find out some stuff about Jane. So if you haven't seen it, go see it now so you don't get it ruined.
Right. I don't know. I think to me, I don't know. Does Darcy do? Is she anything in the comics?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Now, I know Dr. Selvig is in comics. He's kind of different.
Mm-hmm.
But Selvig is actually one that he gets mentioned a lot outside of these movies, but he
Yeah.
isn't necessarily as big outside of the Avenger movies and the Thor movies.
Yeah. I
So.
would agree. Do you think he's a wasted character?
No, because they've used him well. He's supposed to be a side character, but I mean, in Avengers, it's through him you get to see most of what Loki's doing.
Mm-hmm.
In Age of Ultron, he's the reason that Thor can have that vision again after Scarlet Witch.
Right.
And even in Love and Thunder, he's the one trying to help Jane with her issue, even though he only shows up for less than a minute.
Right.
So
I mean, he's got a fairly decent. I'd say a bigger role almost in Dark World.
Oh, Dark World, actually, that's probably his most prominent
That's what I was
because
saying.
he gets to act so far out of his depth.
Yeah.
Because in every other part, he's this rational, doctor, or he's mind controlled by Loki. And Thor Dark World, he's literally having a mental breakdown.
Yeah. Like he's naked, placing pylons. and stuff.
Any questions? Yeah, can I have my shoe back? The
No.
Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah. I don't know that there's much else that I wanted to expand upon. Is there anything that you wanted to expand upon?
The Stan Lee cameo is pretty funny in this too. When he has the truck and he's trying to pull the hammer
Yeah,
out and he breaks his truck.
Did I get it?
Did it work?
Oh, did it work? My bad.
And everyone's
I apologize.
rolling.
Yeah, that's a good scene.
Honestly, I think most of the important stuff. Honestly, I feel like if we're talking about any character that could have been more prominent that we didn't get to see enough of was Frigga. Because she's in the movie. And then obviously if you've seen Thor Dark World, R.I.P. So I think that's one that they didn't use as well. But this is a movie with a lot of people, a lot of moving parts, so you can only use so many people so much. So.
Sure. I think I could agree with how much of an impact she is to Thor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They definitely could have had her a little bit more prominent in this one.
Yeah.
I could agree with that. Obviously, but they were still in the beginning phase of their whole depth of this series, you know what I mean? Yeah. So you got to live and learn a little bit.
That's true.
Well,
and this is where we really start to realize they're doing something MCU wise.
Now,
they're starting to make things connect.
What was the end credit for this movie?
It was where Selvig is. I think he's on the helicarrier. I can't tell, but he's walking down that dark corridor, and all of a sudden you hear Dr. Selvig and it's Nick Fury, and he's standing there with the case with the Tesseract.
That's right.
And then like he shows him like, you know, we're trying to figure out a way to harness the energy.
Yeah.
You know, even be able to control it. And as he's standing there, Loki says, you know, something. I can't remember exactly what he says, but whatever it is he says, then Selvig looks at Fury and says that, and that's the end credit scene.
Right. That's correct. You are.
Which kind of sets you up for what's going to happen in Avengers, but it also plays a huge part in Cap.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the
Tesseract. Yeah.
This is basically the whole plot point
Of Captain America. Yeah.
Which I can't wait to talk about that one. Captain
That's a
America's-
good one. Oh, man.
Captain America is a big one. Also, congratulations to Chris Evans. Just got married. So, good for him.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. He can do it all day.
Yeah.
Don't forget.
Oh. Bet his wife's happy. So, unless you have anything else,
I can't say that there's a lot to talk about. Obviously, you see the fake Infinity Gauntlet in Odin's storeroom here.
So I made a mistake. I had actually meant to do this before. But we had made promises.
That we cannot left unfinished.
So I had brought these guys for our MCU review, so you'll start seeing them in here. And then specifically because what we're watching,
Oh yeah, let me rip this off.
I'm wearing my Thor socks.
Got the Thor socks. Now that's not Thor, but I got some cool
Hey,
Spider-Man.
Spidey-Man.
And I don't know if you people out there are Funko Pop collectors like these, but I get the Marvel Collector Core box. I think this shirt, that just the newest one, is insane.
And if you've watched any of our videos, this guy knows, most of the people that know me knows, my all-time favorite team in all of Marvel is the X-Men. And my all-time favorite character is Gambit. So, we are Marvel heads. We got all kinds of stuff. You'll see some random stuff pop up here and there. So, we had forgotten the last couple times, but we had promised that you would see some stuff. So, I just wanted you to keep an eye out. And you might even see a couple that we don't even mention. So,
Just depends on what kind of the cookie crumble, you know?
Yep. We're busy guys sometimes, so we sometimes forget.
That's true.
Okay.
Very true.
So,
Ready for...
which ranking?
Let's do our... What do you rank this movie by itself, standalone?
Like 1 to
1
10?
out of 10.
Okay. So, it's a tough one for me because there are a lot of good things about this movie. Obviously, the introduction to Thor, you know, the visuals and some of those fight scenes are amazing. Tom Hiddleston as Loki immediately will raise this way
100%.
up. You know, Coulson and S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of being involved raise it up. You know, there's a lot of good guest spots in this movie. But I just have a hard time with what they did with Laufey.
True.
I have a hard time with the relationship with Thor and Jane being believable.
Sure.
And as much of how good this scene was, the scene where he fights the Destroyer, the ending scene, aside from seeing Loki fall into the void because, you know, you don't really know what happened to him, that fight scene is kind of mid.
Yeah, yeah.
For an ending fight scene, some of the movies that we have coming up, it's mid.
I would agree. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a lot of emotion behind it.
Yeah.
But
like,
the fight itself is
they're just fighting over
absolutely
the Rainbow
correct.
Bridge.
Yeah.
And like,
It's like, swing.
Yeah.
You lied! Swing. You know.
And like, don't get me wrong, like, Odin's still trying to save Loki after he was going to have him killed. And Loki choosing to let himself fall into the void is a huge moment. You know?
He chose his own path right there,
Yeah.
man. You know?
And so, that's why for me, I can't give this a high score, but I can't give it even an average score.
Sure.
It's got to be like a 6.5.
Sure.
A little bit above average, because there's a lot of good things, but there's enough where I could rewatch this, but I'm not going to pay attention the whole time. This is not one that can keep my interest the whole time.
That's fair.
Now, this scene, the Destroyer scene, some of the scenes where he's interacting with the humans, the funny scenes, I could absolutely watch.
Mm.
But at the ending scene, I could just listen. I don't even have to watch it because it's just not watchable enough for me.
Mm.
And I think the impact of the movie, obviously, you've got to rate it above average for that. But it's not... It's okay. For me. It's not great. I wouldn't even call it necessarily good. It's okay.
Okay.
So,
6.5. So, me, like I said, Thor was my original favorite.
So you're
In the
probably going
MCU.
to rank this a lot higher.
I wouldn't necessarily say a lot, because we've come a long way now.
Yeah.
Now I've seen these movies again, older, wiser. I've seen more characters. I know that 100% my boy is Star-Lord. You know, shit like that. And Moon Knight. I love Moon Knight too. Throw that out there. Anyway, don't get me wrong. Thor is still a much loved character by me. He's one of my top 10. But this movie does fall a little short for what we could have had and what it could have been, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think Thor Ragnarok is still the standard
Still
for the Thor
prime
movies.
Thor.
Yeah.
100%.
I actually think this is the second best, though, because Thor Love and Thunder,
I would agree.
and then Thor Dark World is
Ragnarok,
easily
Thor 1.
Thor Love and
Love
Thunder,
and Thunder.
and then Dark World is
Dark
one of the
World.
worst ones.
It's, yeah. But I rank this movie just only half above yours as a 7.
Okay, so we're actually pretty close. Honestly, expected a little bit. Now I know our overall MCU.
Yeah,
rank
that's going to be where we're much
way
different.
different. You want to tell yours first, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I'll tell mine first because you gave yours. So make sure exactly. We cheating. Let me look at what I got.
Bro, we're gonna know.
Also, I don't. Did you watch the Iron Man 2 video?
Yeah.
You did. Did you see what I put in when the rankings came up?
What do you mean? Oh, where you changed it? Because
Yes.
initially you said it was what
I had it much higher than I should have.
and then like you said,
It's 25 for me now, which is what Iron Man 2 is for me now. Which I changed it. Which we told you guys before that
They're gonna change at some point.
We could
because-
upload this video, we could go out there and talk about it, and this could go higher or lower.
Well, and
Like it's just like that, and like Loki season 2 is coming out.
He
you
hasn't
know?
watched Secret Invasion yet. He hasn't seen She-Hulk. That could
Very
lower or
true.
higher. You know, the Marvels will be coming out November 10th. That's gonna change.
Crazy.
So we definitely have, you know, and let's not kid ourselves. This will be coming out next year. This is going to be included on our list
Boom.
because it's part of the Marvel Studio stuff.
Yeah.
Even What If counts, even though it's not part of the whole like.
Ooh, what if season 2 comes out soon?
I know. I can't wait for that. I love.
That's gonna be interesting.
As a comic fan, when we talk about What If you're going to get my whole geek boy rant because I have so many of the What If comics that are fantastic. So
Yeah. Thor 1 stands at 22 for me.
22.
Yes.
Okay, overall.
Because I
That's,
had Iron Man 2 as 21.
and you actually at the time we both had it the same where Thor was one above Iron Man 2, just in different parts of our list.
Right.
Because yours was higher for both initially. Yours is still higher for both than mine.
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, this is 35.
Okay, that's a little higher than I actually thought.
Because, well, I explained it in Iron Man 2 as well, because there's some movies that we have coming up, you know.
Yeah,
And I'm not gonna go
hit
into-
a good 3.
Yeah, and then, like, we actually, Phase 2, for the most part, has, aside from Dark World, Guardians 2 is one that's lower, but it's not that low.
Yeah.
Like, it's not until we get to, like, the later stuff, like, full disclosure, he's gonna totally hate me for this. I think Moon Knight is one of my least favorite of anything in the MCU.
Bro.
Sorry, buddy.
Oh,
Eternals, I loved so much about that movie, but the storyline makes absolutely no sense,
hate
and because of that, it's gonna get a low score. Trying to think.
Moon Knight's one of his favorite.
The sad thing is I actually love his comics, but that show,
I love Moon Knight so much.
we'll talk about it.
We'll get there. We still got a long
Because we're going to go on a tangent. This is what we do. So,
Can't.
I think we agree that it's a solid movie.
Yeah.
It's not... Of the Phase 1 movies, for me, I think if we're talking standalone rankings, I think it actually gets the worst ranking so far. If
You
I'm
had
not
Iron Man
mistaken.
2 above this?
Huh?
You had Iron Man 2 above this?
I'm saying, like, standalone, not the MCU.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
Like, Impact.
Yeah.
I can't remember because I feel like I gave Iron Man 2 a 7. And I give this, what, a 6.5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is pretty close, man. I mean,
They're both pretty close. I just think the movie itself, the chemistry thing is the thing that hits for me standalone.
Sure.
But if we're talking impact of the movie, this movie has more impact as far as what's going on than Iron Man 2 does. Because we're getting our first glimpse into Asgard. We're getting to see what makes Thor who he is. And Thor is a central part of everything that's happening. Mm-hmm. He's one of the only 06 that is still around.
Mm-hmm. Super true. And he had most contact with almost every Infinity Stone.
See, no, well, let's think about this. Obviously, the Tesseract. He has a lot of contact with the Tesseract.
The Aether,
Loki's Scepter, the Reality Stone, the Power Stone in Infinity Wars. The only two he doesn't really...
Time.
No, he does have the Time Stone because Thanos rewinds time and then he stabs him with the hammer right after that. So the only one that he doesn't really have anything to do with
is Soul
Stone.
Which he almost did. Heimdall loves it. That was still... That theory, man, that theory went crazy.
That's a
I
crazy
can't believe
theory.
I've never heard that before.
And Heimdall, I can't wait for Thor Ragnarok especially because he has such a huge part in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way they make him look because he's on the run and he's like
dude,
helping all the refugees.
hiding in the mountain and shit. Dude, Heimdall, he carries. That dude is not one to be trifled with. Especially carrying out a whole ass greatsword. We'll get there.
Plus Idris Elba.
Idris Elba
is
kills.
amazing. He's dope.
He's Knuckles
Yeah.
in Sonic 2, and I love Knuckles.
He plays a great good guy, but he plays an even better bad guy.
Dude, he plays an insane bad guy.
Yeah, he's great.
He's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should make Idris Elba Thor.
Hmm.
That's what if?
Ooh.
Yeah,
Ooh.
that'd be a good one. Heimdall became Thor.
He could be fighting with T'Challa. Well, no, can't because
T'Challa, Star-Lord.
yeah, but we don't have Chadwick anymore, so.
That is true. Rest in peace, Chadwick.
Sucks.
That is horrible. This is final.
Man.
Final words in the MCU right there. That is horrible.
Man, that what if, when we talk about what if.
That was one of my favorites. Because Black Panther and Star-Lord are two of my favorite characters.
Man.
That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough one.
I'll probably cry.
That's fair.
Because that's a legit, real one.
Yeah, it is fair.
You know?
So, I mean, assuming we get to record this weekend, we've had a lot of ups and downs here recently.
Yeah.
I had COVID. Cousin Jeffro had to go out of town. Dad went missing.
We found him.
We found him. We will do Captain America this weekend. And from Captain America all the way through Iron Man 3, I think there's going to be a lot of good things to talk about.
Yeah.
Because we already talked about that. So
We actually are looking forward to our next 3 reviews.
yeah.
Because they're going to be...
Especially, to me, Avengers.
Oh, Avengers is going to be
I can't wait to
the
talk about
cup,
Avengers.
the cherry on top of the cake. Captain America, the first Avenger, is one that I think is super good, and I don't think it gets enough credit for how good it is.
I agree.
And Iron Man 3, I think we've talked about this. We both agree it's one of the most underrated movies. A lot of people don't like it, and I think it's actually really good.
It shows a lot.
Yeah.
And obviously we'll get there. I'm going to throw it out there, say what you will, that I think Captain America has the best trilogy
Hands down.
of the MCU.
I don't think it's I mean...
I don't know. I'm sure some people will probably say Iron Man or Thor or whatever.
If Guardians 2 had been better,
could have been Guardians.
you could have argued Guardians. Because Guardians 1 was
fair.
amazing,
Dude,
and Guardians 3 was... Ooh,
Dude, I can't wait to
so
talk about
good.
Guardians 3.
So good.
Guardians 3.
But I think from 1 to 3, Captain America First Avenger is it's so good as an origin story. Like, they do so well for
Yeah, dude, and
staying central. And then Winter Soldier.
And, like, they set up so much. I mean, we're not even on Captain America.
I know, but we could talk about it. Because Winter Soldier, hot take, is my favorite non-Avenger movie in all the MCU.
Not Civil War.
Nope. Civil War's up there.
That's fair.
But Winter Soldier is...
non-Avenger movies, Guardians 1, so...
Well, you're Star-Lord guy. Yeah, I'm a Cap guy.
What? Wait till Gambit comes out. What are you going to do? Number 1. As long as they don't make him bad, don't do that. Make him Tom Cruise.
Can we just not? Because they've made a lot of bad X-Men movies.
Dude, they're going to do him good.
I hope so.
They're going to do good. Because now they're in charge. They got John Favreau on that shit.
Do you have anything else?
No, man.
Because-
I feel like we talked really good about Thor, and I kind of thought this one was going to be a little bit worse for coming from you on your side.
I won't flame a movie. Even the ones that I think are not great, there's still things I like about them.
Yeah, I mean,
We've talked
sure.
about how with the MCU, overall there aren't many of the movies that I can just say I just despise, and there's nothing good about it.
There's something good, I feel like, in almost
Every
every
single one.
Marvel movie.
Or show.
Um,
And if you can't say that, then you're not looking at it through an objective lens. You're looking for a reason to not like it. Because
Even-
they've done it, even the newer stuff where they've kind of overdid the redeeming villains and like some of the silly stuff.
And
There's-
even if Eternals, if the story doesn't make a lot of sense, there's going to be a character you like, or there might be a fight scene you like, or
Even the visuals, because
Something.
Eternals, the special
visuals
effects
on Eternals
are
really good.
fire.
really good.
They kill it.
But we'll get there when we get there
Yeah.
on Eternals, and I'm sure a lot of people are not going to be happy about it. But
Yeah.
it'll be okay.
They'll be alright.
It'll be okay. They got to get through Thor Dark World first.
That one's not going to get a good rating.
Not a good review.
So
That's okay. I'm good. Thor's good.
So all I've got to say is, we can do this all day.